I'm here at the Sullivan County Boxing Gym in Liberty, New York. I'm with Coach Jose Toledo. You might have seen him last time we made a podcast. Today we're going to discuss George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali, better known as the Rumble in the Jungle. Ali was challenging for Foreman's heavyweight title. The fight took place in Zaire on October 30th, 1974. The fight was so big, it had to be broadcasted in 100 countries. Jose, before I get to my first question, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Jose Toledo. I'm the owner of Sullivan County Boxing Gym, also known as Untouchables Boxing Club, located in Liberty, New York, in the Catskills.
Jose, every boxing fan knows about Ali's use of the rope-a-dope. As a boxing coach, would you ever recommend this strategy?
Well, that's what's so different about this fight. They called it a rope-a-dope, and I think that Ali in his second comeback, because we know he was disbarred for 3 years, and when he came back, it was totally a different style. He was more sitting on the ropes. But no, I wouldn't tell a fighter to sit on the ropes. Ali had a game plan. He implemented it in this fight. He fought George Foreman at his game, and he dominated him. He sat on the ropes. He tired him out. He used his experience. George Foreman was about 25 years old. He didn't go more than 2 rounds in a few years. And Ali used that to his advantage, and we'll discuss it as we get more into details with the fight. But no, I wouldn't recommend that a fighter sit on the ropes. But not every fighter is a Muhammad Ali.
In recent history, I should say back in the 90s, there was a heavyweight named Chris Bird who had exceptional defensive skills, but then he ran into Ike Miyabuchi,
yep.
And he was giving Ike a hard time. Ike was known; he was also an undefeated fighter, known for his power, he had his skills, and Chris was, I think, outboxing him for much of the fight. But then he made the mistake, in my mind, of staying on the ropes, and like Jose said, not everybody Muhammad Ali. Ike eventually caught Chris on those ropes with I believe it was like a hook to the body, uppercut to the head. It was an awkward combination.
And Chris Bird had exceptional upper body movement and a very good defense. For a heavyweight, he was a small fighter. Ike Miyabuchi was a very strong fighter who threw a lot of punches. He pressured Chris a lot, made him get on the ropes, and eventually he caught Chris.
I always thought of Muhammad Ali as having 2 distinct styles of fighting. And that it was to his age, like Jose was alluding to. When he was younger, he used his athleticism to dance around the ring, moving that upper body as well, to make his opponents miss. Then he would come back with lightning fast combinations. The older Ali was less mobile, relying on the ropes to make his opponents punch themselves out, but he took a lot of punishment in the process. Is there anything from Ali's technique that you would recommend to your fighters? Ali
about
his whole career.
Ali was not just a fighter. Ali was a thinker. Ali was a strategizer. Ali had good technique, and I'll discuss that once we get later into this fight. And I'll explain how Ali used his experiences to dominate George Foreman for those 8 rounds and eventually knocking him out. Ali was quick. He was fast. He had very good straight punching. He was technical. He used his legs when he needed to use his legs. When he came back, he had very great lateral movement. And as we all know, if you look at Ali throws his punches, he throws them within an 11 and 14 frame, nice and tight, straight down the middle. And if you're throwing straight punches, you take less punishment. And that's what he implemented in the George Foreman fight. George Foreman was a brute. He was very strong. He overwhelmed a lot of guys with his punching power. Ali stayed within that 11-14 frame. George Foreman had to come out with his punches. Ali maintained a high guard, catching a lot of the punches and then returning those straight punches. And if you look into the fight, Ali would pick him off when he would come in. as he was coming in when he had him at the end of his punches. Then he would close the distance, grabbing George Foreman behind the head on his shoulders. When he applied both of the hands on the shoulders, pulling George Foreman in, George Foreman was off balance. He would throw his wide punches, and Ali was under his shoulders. Ali fought a very good fight. He was on the ropes, but he was still touching George Foreman with his straight punching coming in. He was throwing punches first. I mean, he fought a great fight off the ropes. Not normally what you recommend for a fighter to do, to sit on the ropes. And we all know that everybody was favoring George Foreman coming into this fight. Ali had a great training camp. He trained in Africa all summer long to get comfortable with the elevation, to get comfortable with the heat. And the people loved him there.
At this point in the video, we're going to do a round by round breakdown of the fight. In round 1, as soon as the bell rings, Ali runs across the ring to go after Foreman. Ali then starts bouncing and dancing around the ring in typical Ali fashion. Foreman stays in front of Ali and gets nailed with a few punches. Ali lands a couple of punches and grabs Foreman around the head. Foreman rushes in most of the round, pushing Ali against the ropes a few times. Foreman lands a few punches but fails to land most of them.
Well, that was, if you looked at the first round, Ali was applying the mental welfare. I mean, before the first round even rung, when they were gloving it up, him and Bundine started. They were trying to frustrate George Foreman, and that was part of the game plan, frustrating George Foreman. And he also wanted to show George Foreman that he wasn't scared of him, because before this fight with Ali, all his opponents were scared of him. Even Jim Brown, Joe Frazier, who was a guy that gave Ali a hard time, and George Foreman came back to knock out Joe Frazier. Ken Norton gave Ali a hard time, and George Foreman came out and knocked him out. I mean, nobody was giving Ali the benefit of the doubt when they said, is he going to win or lose? Jim Brown says he's going to lose. He says, Frazier, do you honestly think he's going to win? And even Joe Frazier was going for George Foreman. So part of the strategy was, within the first round, Ali ran straight out for George Foreman. He started landing punches. He wanted to show George Foreman that he wasn't scared of him.
Round 2 starts with Ali rushing to the center of the ring to meet Foreman. It's immediately clear that Ali has already given up on his usual movement. He's no longer on his toes, but flat-footed, and backing up most of his time. Throughout the round, Ali allows himself to be pushed onto the ropes. We then see what will become known as the rope-a-dope. Ali lays on the ropes and fires off a few punches at a time. Foreman is trying desperately to land a big right hand. With 20 seconds left in the round, Ali lands a head-snapping right hand on Foreman. Foreman throws a big left hook, with Ali leaning back to miss. Ali immediately grabs Foreman around the head and shakes his own head, letting the crowd know Foreman can't land that big punch.
And that was part of the strategy. Part of the strategy was getting inside George Foreman's head. And Ali would throw punches. He would grab George Foreman. He would pull him in. He would talk to him in his ear. The whole plan was to make him fight harder than he's fought in any other fight, to tire him out. And that he succeeded. From the first and second round, he jumped right on Foreman. He was getting in his head. And at the end of the second round, you can see Ali was throwing a lot more punches in that round.
Round 3. Foreman starts the round by bullying Ali into the ropes and working the body with big right and left hooks. Ali lands a right-left that snaps Foreman's head from side to side. Foreman goes back to working the body with those wide hooks. With 10 seconds left in the round, Ali lands a straight right hand to the head of Foreman.
I mean, at the end of the third round, once again, Ali was forcing him to fight. George Foreman was throwing some amazing body shots, and I don't know how many people could withstand that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Ali had a great chin, had the ability to take punches, had endurance for pain. And that fight, that third round was going back and forth to 10 seconds left into that third round. And 10 seconds left in that third round, Ali hit him with a 3-punch combination. Ali walked back into the corner. George Foreman came and he hit him with a 1-2, 1-2 so quick. Ali had phenomenal hand speed. He hurt George Foreman at the end of that third round. You can see George Foreman stagger back into his corner and Ali looking back at George Foreman, watching him walk back into that corner. Ali knew from that third round on that he was going to pressure George Foreman and make him fight harder than he's ever fought before, and he succeeded at it.
Round 4 starts with Ali moving to the ropes and Foreman pursuing. Ali then lands a right, left, right to the head of Foreman. For much of the fight, Foreman lunges in with punches which rarely lands. With just over 10 seconds left, Foreman throws a double left hook, the body and then the head. The body shot clearly landed, but the head shot was less effective.
Well, going into that fourth round, Ali had it in his head that he hurt him, and it apparently looked like he hurt George Foreman with the 1-2 at the end. So the first 30 seconds of the fourth round, Ali jumped right back on him, and was pressuring him. And then the fight went back and forth, where Ali was pushing Foreman back, keeping him at the end of his punches, closing the distance, putting his hands behind his head. You know, once you grab a fighter and you put your weight on him, you know, it was part of the strategy to tire him out.
Round 5. The story of the fight so far had been Ali laying on the ropes and being effective, more effective than Foreman. Like the previous rounds, Foreman punches are wide, usually landing on Ali's arms or missing altogether. From time to time, we see Foreman paw with the jab when he's in close. With less than 30 seconds left, Ali goes on the offensive and throws a series of straight punches that land on Foreman. Ali rolls under a wide right, but Foreman then lands a left hook, which had little effect on Ali. Throughout the exchange, Ali landed many straight right hands.
I watching this fight, I don't only just watch fights, I study these fights. And I think besides the 8th round where Muhammad Ali knocks out George Foreman, the 5th round was the most important round, because at that moment I felt that Ali had broken George Foreman. With 30 seconds left in that 5th round, Ali hurt George Foreman. I mean, you can see Foreman walking back to the corner. His shoulders are shrugged. Ali really picked him apart in that 5th round. That was the breaking point of that fight. If you watch the 6th and the 7th, Ali also dominated that. George Foreman wasn't the same after that 5th round.
Round 6. The beginning of the 6th round saw Foreman pawing punches, trying to slap away Ali's arms. Ali lands several stinging jabs, but Foreman keeps walking forward. Once again, Ali, with his back on the ropes, covers up while Foreman flails away. Many of Foreman's punches seem weak, and clearly it's from exhaustion. Ali lands some straight right hands from the ropes. As they move across the ring from one set of ropes to the other, Ali jabs while moving backwards. George Foreman ate many of them.
Well, there was 3 key factors that affected George Foreman in this fight. One was the heat, and 2 was the strategizing, the movement. Ali forcing him to fight harder and throw a lot more punches than he normally would have. Ali was frustrating him. Ali would throw his punches, catch him at the end of his punches, pull him back in, talk to him in his ear. Is that all you got? Come on. You know, forcing him to fight. Ali knew exactly what he was doing. And after that 5th round, he was done. He was done. Ali picked him apart the 6th and 7th round, threw a lot more punches than George Foreman. He knew that after that 5th round, when he turned around and saw George walking back to that corner, that he had him.
Round 7. The round starts with Ali placing himself on the ropes, like literally walked over and just put himself on the ropes. Foreman walked over to him. Again, they moved from one set of ropes to the other, with Ali flicking a few punches and grabbing Foreman behind the head. Ali starts throwing left hooks, none of which seem to land, but as he moves backwards to the ropes, he lands a quick right hand to the head of Foreman. George Foreman is so tired, he can barely lift his legs and actually trips into Ali. With 47 seconds left, Foreman grabs Ali's head and lands a solid uppercut.
I mean, this 6th and 7th round really separated the young fighter from the more experienced technical fighter. It was clear coming into this fight that Muhammad Ali had a plan, and from the first round, up to the 8th round, he was applying and strategizing exactly what he was supposed to do. He forced Foreman to fight hard. He forced Foreman to throw a lot more punches than he wouldn't throw. He kept George Foreman off balance. He used his reach. He sat on the ropes. He pulled him in, closed the distance, put the weight on him. At the 6th and 7th round, he was picking him apart. And we know what happened in the 8th, and we'll get to that.
Round 8 is the beginning of the end of Foreman's chances of winning, as Ali starts the round by landing just about everything he throws. Foreman looks a lot like Rocky Balboa, as he takes every one of these shots to the head without even trying to get out of the way. Out of desperation, Foreman lunges in with a wild left hook that Ali saw from a mile away. Foreman eventually lands a few straight rights, but on the ropes, Ali covers while Foreman throws punches with nothing on them. With less than 20 seconds left, Ali gets off the ropes and opens up on Foreman. A straight right hand lands on the chin of Foreman and he goes down. Foreman doesn't get up in time and is counted out.
I mean, we saw it in the 5th where Ali would make him throw a lot of punches and Ali would come back with that explosive combinations. We've seen it in the 7th round and the 8th round. Listen, George Foreman was trying to do what he did to all the fighters before him, was bully them. He kept his head in the middle. Ali was throwing straight punches, catching him, closing the distance. Ali did exactly what he needed to do to win this fight. I think after the 5th round, I think he broke George Foreman. George Foreman was not ready for Ali. I think George Foreman was tailor-made for Muhammad Ali. I think Muhammad Ali was the Pablo Picasso, Da Vinci of boxing. He painted a beautiful picture when he implemented the tactics that he used against George Foreman.
Now, do we know for a fact that Ali planned this in advance? He didn't decide this on the spot while he was in the ring?
Well, no. I don't think that. I think that he studied Foreman just like he did Joe Frazier. He knew he was very good with guys that threw wide punches. Joe Frazier was a hooker. Foreman was a hooker. Ali's a guy that any trainer knows that with straight punching, you're coming straight down the middle, it's going to get there a lot quicker. You're going to be under the shoulders. You're going to take a lot less punishment. Ali, if you look at him as sometimes on the ropes, he was rolling with the punches. He kept a high guard. He would see those hooks coming because you would see his hands. They would come up here. They would come high. You can see George Foreman's punches coming from a mile away, and George Foreman kept that head in the middle all the time. That's why, anybody can win a fight closing the distance. Throwing a punch, grabbing the guy. You watched Ali, he was creating a little distance. Every time the referee stepped in between them, he walked around the referee, gave himself a little bit more time to breathe and gather himself, and created that distance between him and George Foreman so he could pick George Foreman off before he gets in.
I think, like last time, Jose said it all. We'll end it here. This is Justin Salvato with the Boxing for Free podcast, and I'm with Coach Jose Toledo, and we'll hopefully do this again.